We have a great set of panelists for you today. We're going to have Joan Miller with San Antonio, Veronica Hawk with Bernie chapter, and Kathy Saucier, she's representing the Trinity Forks chapter tonight, and Martha, or today, not tonight, feels like night, and Martha Richardson, who's with Clear Lake. So I tell you what we're going to do is, since we have such a diverse group of people, I'm going to go ahead and start my presentation, because the first part of the presentation is about what NLCP is. So I'm going to stop sharing, because there are people here who are unfamiliar with Native Landscape Certification Program. Well, this is interesting. There we go. One moment, please. Okay. Does everybody see Native Landscape Certification Program Chapter Development Workshop on your screen? I hope so. All righty. Good morning, everyone. My name is Meg Inglis. I'm the Native Landscape Certification Program, and welcome to the Chapter Development Workshop. It's hosted by the Native Plant Society and our 40th annual symposium. And because we have such a wide diversity of audience today, we're going to start by taking a look at what NLCP is, for those of you who are not familiar with it. And then we'll move into the workshop portion.
Meg, we do not see your, we see the gallery, we don't see your presentation.
Ah, well, thank you, Veronica. That's very useful. Hold on. You know why? I will fix that. Maybe not. That's very strange. Hold on. Let me try again. Now tell me, this is it. You see it, right?
Yes.
Now do you see it?
Yes.
Okay. Oh my goodness, talk about feeling. Thank you, Veronica. That makes you feel really stupid to be talking and showing the wrong thing. Okay, we're all here together now, right? So we're going to talk about the Native Landscape Certification Program, if my computer will cooperate with me. The NLCP, as we all call it, because Native Landscape Certification Program is quite long, is the mission of the NLCP is to teach the value of including and preserving native plants and landscapes. And our target audience is the general public and landscape professionals. This program was developed by the Native Plant Society of Texas, and the NLCP is made up of 4 different levels of certification classes. The first is level 1, Introduction to Native Landscapes, where we talk about the benefits of native landscapes to your native plants to your landscape. And then level 2 is called Landscape Design with Native Plants. And there you'll have an opportunity to design your own landscape, do a little activity and learn how to design your landscape. And then of course, you're going to need to know how to install and maintain that landscape. So level 3 is about installation and maintenance. Level 4, Stewardship of Native Plant Communities, is currently under development. We're going to have Suzanne Tuttle talk about the implementation schedule in just a minute. But it has a broader scope. We're looking more at larger natural areas and the concept of restoration in that class. In addition to the certification classes, the NLCP Steering Committee has we've allowed us to develop a companion class, and that's called Native Landscapes for Birds. And we hope to develop more companion classes as time goes on, but we developed the birds class a couple of years ago and it's been very popular. Well, some reason everything's not cooperating today, of course. The NLCP is a statewide program and it's taught by the Native Plant Society of Texas chapters. And those chapters focus on the local plants and characteristics of the plants in their area, in their region. And that, I believe, is what makes this class really special, because if you go to a class in a particular area, you're going to learn about the plants in that area, not just any old plants, but the plants that work in your area. So that's what makes it a really useful program to you, I think. In 2020, we have had, just wanted to give you a little bit of background about 2020 classes. Of course, the coronavirus has had a huge impact on our classes. We had planned 16 in-person classes last spring, and all of them were canceled. We're lucky that the program is a very robust program, so it really wasn't impacted that badly by the cancellations. And then we had to do a quick turnaround and decide what we wanted to do from there. And we had 8 very brave chapters who decided to do online classes in the fall. So we have 12 online classes this fall. And it was really a steep learning curve for us all. But I do think we have actually come up with some improvements to the program that we can continue on once we go back into in-person classes, which I think we will eventually. I cannot tell you when. The classes are a huge volunteer effort by the Native Plant Society of Texas host chapters, and they work really hard to put the components of the class together. As you can see, they're in-class presentations. We have field portion, a plant walk where we go out and look at the plants in nature. We provide resources and plant samples. It's a lot of work to put these classes on, and it's a lot of information. And I'm very, very grateful to the chapters and the volunteers that do this. They're very dedicated, and they are your experts in the area. So by going to the NLCP classes, you get to know some pretty important people that can help you with your landscapes. At this point, I'm going to ask Suzanne to talk about the level 4 implementation schedule. And then after that, we're going to have 4 panelists talk about enhancements that they've made to their program in order to enrich it, to make it better. And I think you'll be really excited about this, other host chapter representatives that are here, because one of the things that we'll talk about is hosting an in-person plant walk in online COVID times. So we'll get some feedback from the Bernie chapter on what they did there. And there are lots of other good ideas. And over the years as NLCP coordinator, I've kept records of just really fun initiatives that chapters have done. And I've compiled a handout. So the handout will have these improvements enhancements that we're talking about today in the panel. And then I'll have other ideas that I've just written down and kept up with. I'll have contact information if you want to ask people questions, and links to products if you want to buy products. So that will come out after the presentation. I'll send it in an email to everybody for that. Just want to say who the panelists are. I've already said it before we started the meeting, but I'm going to say it again. We'll have Joan Miller from San Antonio, then Veronica Hawk from Bernie, and Kathy Saucier, who's representing Trinity Forks today. And then we have Martha Richardson from Clear Lake. So it's going to be a great program, and thank you for coming. Now I'm going to turn it on over to Suzanne.
Thanks, Meg. Hi, good morning, everybody. I'm Suzanne Tuttle. I'm in the North Central chapter, which is in the Fort Worth area. I'm the chair of the Level 4 Development Subcommittee of NLCP, and the other folks on my committee are Meg and Dee Dee Wright from New Braunfels. So we've worked out a level 4. We've actually had level 4 under pretty focused development for about a year and a half. These classes do take quite some time to actually bring to fruition. And so we're to the point now of finishing up writing the notes for the class topic PowerPoint. So we're about to send the PowerPoint with the draft of the notes out to the NLCP committee and to a select group of subject matter experts to vet the notes and the slides and make sure we're on the right track. So we're sending that out by October 31st. So from now through November 20th, we're going to have the topic PowerPoint under review and comment by the subject matter experts. November 20th through the end of the year, we're going to take a winter break. Then, and starting in January, we're going to finalize the topic PowerPoint. And then in March, finalize the class format, because we're not sure yet, especially given the COVID-19 restrictions, whether we're actually going to be able to have a live field component of this, or whether we're going to need to do online virtual classes or some other manifestation of a field component. And then in May or June, we haven't decided quite yet because we need to see how the finalizing of the class format goes. We'll have an online class and we'll do some train the trainer, set up maybe a pilot class. Since I retired from a job in natural resource management in 2016, and so since I'm in the North Central Texas area, and so my area of expertise in land management is in this area, the initial PowerPoint is being developed for the North Central Texas area. And then as the other chapters implement it, it can certainly is changeable to reflect the other parts of the state. So then sometime in the summer next year, we'll set up fall classes, and then we'll actually host the classes in the fall of next year, about a year from now. Meg?
Yes, ma'am. Okay, thank you, Suzanne.
You're welcome.
If you have any questions about that, please write it in the chat. And did we have any questions for my co-host? Did you see anything? You've been checking the chat? If not, we're going to move on to Joan Miller, San Antonio NIPSOT. Joan, do you want me to stop sharing so that you don't have to look at this awful slide while you talk, or do you want to just leave that up?
Yeah, because my talking points are on the computer, so.
Oh, okay, good. I'm going to stop sharing. All right, so in the screen and stop sharing.
And Meg, there is one question in chat that actually might fall into Joan's. There do not seem to be any classes in my area, Shirts. Is there a list of classes by area online?
Oh, that's a good question. There is, go ahead.
Yeah, well, Shirts is close to, it's between San Antonio and New Braunfels. I know New Braunfels hasn't had any classes. I mean, if you're asking for 2020, we're finished with classes. We had 2 classes this fall. So we are planning to do some classes in the spring, and Shirts, San Antonio would be probably one of your best locations to take classes. So keep on, just go to the website, the state website. And I guess, when do you think you're going to have a schedule up for spring, Meg? I mean, we can have classes in the winter now if it's all online.
Well, this is true. The schedule will be posted at this point on February 1st for the spring and early winter. And you're right. I think Austin's looking at having a birds class in February now, because if it's all online, what the heck, you can have them any time of the year. So I agree. I think San Antonio is your best bet for Shirts. Another option, though, would be to take the Lindheimer class. I know Lindheimer is planning on having some classes. Lindheimer is, they have their classes in Canyon Lake, and they will be talking about a couple of ecoregions, the Blackland Prairie and the Balcones Canyon Land, or the Hill Country area. So that would work for you as well. And Shirts. Was there another question that we needed to address at this point?
I don't think so. Doesn't look like it.
All righty, thank you. Hopefully that's helpful. Okay, Joan, go take it away.
Okay, thanks. Hi, everybody. So I'm going to try to go through this pretty quickly because I realized I had a lot to say. So if you have any questions, you can put up some questions if I go a little too quickly. But just for background, the NLCP program was started in San Antonio in 2009. I took the level 1 class then. And then in 2012, I got involved in helping setting up the first level 2 class by looking for venues and creating the plant walk and sitting in on all of those classes in spring of 2012. When Meg came on board, which was, I guess, 2014, you said, 2014, by then it'd become a state program, and I was involved in helping review the level 3 class, finding venues, helping create the plant walk again. I guess which included a short demonstration of some plant maintenance techniques in level 3, and then managing the classes in San Antonio. One benefit I would say of being involved at this level is that you really become acquainted with a lot of existing members, new members, potential members who, it sort of helps bring them into the program, into the chapter and the program as well, because, you recognize their faces or their names when you go to meetings, and then it's easy to approach them and get them to help out with the program or any other volunteer opportunities in your chapter. So I was president of the chapter for a while too, been on the board for a long time, but it's really helped me increase our volunteer efforts, I think. So that's one good thing about being involved at that level. So I'm just going to go through some basic topics here. Instructors, this is just our experiences and my thoughts. For finding instructors, I think it's great you identify individuals in your community who you know are good instructors already. And one way to get them to take the class beforehand is get the chapter to go ahead and pay their way for an NLCP class. So invite them, say, we'll pay for your class, and but we'd like to be able, if you're amenable to being an instructor at some time in the future, that would be great. And we've had success with that. So we have a larger pool of instructors available to us. And then we do offer the $100 for teaching each part of the class. Some take us up on it and some don't, but we're always, it comes out of the program because we do ask for reimbursement from the program because it's budgeted for that. So we do have several. Of course, if they're a master naturalist, they can't get their volunteer hours, but if they want to get paid for their time, and usually they spend the whole day there anyway, so it's not like they're making a whole lot or it's costing us a whole lot. And then into venues, looking for venues to hold the class, you want to look for places with potential plant walks that are on site or close. So if it's a park with a facility, that's great. But residential neighborhoods can be surprisingly useful. I mean, we used to do level 1 in the King William district of San Antonio. Some of you may have taken the class there. We had the class at the San Antonio River Authority. Then we'd walk through the residential neighborhoods down onto the river. And then also there was a master naturalist demonstration garden at the time. So we really were able to get quite a few plants. And since it's a landscaping class, seeing plants in landscapes is certainly appropriate. And then partnering with some of these groups, if it's a park, a lot of times they'll allow you to have the space for free if you're an educational nonprofit that fits their mission. So certainly don't be afraid to ask that if that's an option as well. We have never paid for a venue in San Antonio, and we've had them in schools, in parks, San Antonio River Authority, the River Foundation. So there's lots of good ideas out there. And of course, the best venues have their own video and PA systems, so you don't have to take your own projector and screen. And churches and schools would probably also be a good option, especially if they have a demonstration garden or something nearby. So our plant sample displays, we've come a long way from our first class where we had a binder with photos of the plants. Then I remember before I used to have much help when I was coordinating these and putting samples of each plant into a Ziploc bag and sampling the bag. Then I'd save the Ziploc for the next class, but there's a lot of work the day before a class getting all of that ready and shoved into a ice chest. And so now we have photos, the slides from the plant knowledge. We have a sample of the plant, which can be a branch or leaves, fruit, a vase with a cutting, or those floral tubes with smaller samples, which I know that when some of our people went to, I guess, Williamson County to do the birds training class, that's where they saw those at first and thought they were a great idea. So yeah, that's a huge help to have those ready to go the night before. And that's the other thing too, if you can get into your venue the night before to set it up, even better. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. But yeah, not having to scramble the morning of a class to get things ready, because it's a scramble in the morning to get people signed in and set up and stuff. Something that the San Antonio chapter started as well was our NLCP services directory. It's posted on our chapter website, includes names and contact information for those who are certified, meaning they passed the test at specific levels, to be listed, and they're either volunteers or they're professionals. And so, either they're available if you just want to have someone come out and look at your property, you don't want to hire someone, but there's other professionals who, say, I do a plan for you, I'll do installation for you, I'll do maintenance, whatever, as a professional landscape service. And so the site also lists each class the individual completed and they certified. We ask them every year if they want to be listed again, and then ask new people who passed the test that year if they want to be listed on the directory. And I think it's still underutilized. I try to direct people to it as much as possible, but I do know I know Veronica even is on that list. But people do get contacted occasionally, and it's a great resource out there that people willing to help with that.
You want me to show them the site or not?
So
Do you want me to
what?
show them the directory?
Oh,
No.
yes, no, that's okay. Just I can put a link in chat when we're done.
And I'll have a link in, just so you know, in the handout, I'll have links to the floral tubes and I'll have a link to your directory.
Okay, all right. And then one of the things I've started doing, since I was kind of the one coordinator for all the classes, and we now have 4 classes that we offer in San Antonio, is to try to get people to volunteer as a class coordinator for each level. And I have done that. I'm there to support them for whatever they want or need, but the idea is that they pretty much take over the organization, more of the back and forth with Meg on getting the classes to happen each time. And that's helped me a lot as well. So that's been good. And, because I may not do this forever. And so then, the program could just seamlessly keep going. And the other thing too is that I don't teach, I only coordinate. And so that way I can always just focus on getting the class, all the details of getting the class done, instead of, I'm just not a teacher. I'll just say that, but I do lead plant walks, and I'm always happy to lead the plant walk portion, but I don't teach. So that helps me personally keep things separate and focus on getting the class going. And then finally, just our experience this past fall going online, we had to, from scratch, create the virtual plant walk. And that was, so luckily we had one volunteer who said, I'll go ahead and for the 2 classes, I'll put together the slides. And it was a separate PowerPoint presentation, but knowing people just sat through the one plant knowledge, we really wanted to have people get something else out of sitting through a PowerPoint on each plant. So we've decided to focus on identification. So the slideshow looked completely different. And it was arranged in a way of if you were going on a walk. So we started down in the riparian zone in the floodplain and covered plants that were down there in sequence. And so, I would do that section, the next segment, another plant walk leader would take over, and we'd go through the woods. In the level 1 class, then we were on a fence line and then coming out into an open field. So it also gave context for where some of these plants could be found. It's not exclusive that they're only in that environment, but just even putting that, then working on that presentation after the initial part was done, and then going through my segment and, making sure I did a good job. I learned a lot more about a lot of those plants as well. It improved my teaching ability on a plant walk. So that was great. And then just Zoom in general, wonderful way of practicing your presentation. You can just turn on Zoom, and start record yourself doing your presentation, and then realize that, oh, okay, yeah, I really shouldn't keep doing this to my hair or scratching my face or something. And it really, I think it helped to make me a better presenter, knowing what people were seeing when they saw me on the screen. So anyway, that's all I have to share from my experience. So
Let me see if we have any questions. See, there I am. Let me see if I can see. So Valerie put a link to your directory, and
good, thank you.
Clarence wants to know if any panelists believe level 1 would be appropriate for education, youth education. Okay. I think this is another question. Clarence, let's get to your question at the end, okay? That'll be a good end question. We won't forget unless we run out of time, and then I'll talk to you about it individually. And Valerie Dalton says, is there a video of a San Antonio plant walk that you did? And yes, there is. It's on NLCP.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, one of them has been blocked by YouTube because I had some Van Morrison music playing at a break, and they got me for copyright infringement. So I wanted to cut that part out anyway, so I just haven't gotten to it. But the idea was, yeah, that we could make the plant walk portions available on our YouTube, but I haven't gotten into editing those yet. So stay tuned.
Very good. Okay. Joan, thank you. As always, you are such an icon in this program. You can never leave. That's just the way it is. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
So we're going to go on. Let me see if I can do this properly this time and share my screen and make it so we can look at Veronica's presentation. And I'm going to put on the presenter view. And I'm going to be Veronica's slide mover for her. Veronica said she would introduce herself, but I just have to say Veronica's just got tons of energy, and you're going to see that from this presentation. And I just love hearing her ideas. So here we go. Veronica, take it away.
Thanks, Meg. This is really in presentation due to coronavirus. So it looks like we're not doing anything actually. No, what we did was we socially distanced for the class portion of our time. We have been, the Birdie chapter has been presenting NLCP for since 2016, really under the leadership of Kathy Ward. And this is Kathy doing her part of the presentation. And we socially distanced for this part. And something that I don't know if you all know this, but we all had our computers because we wanted to see what we were reading, but we presented it so that we could, as a group, watch it. We had a lot of problems with interference between the computers during Zoom. So that's something that you do have to kind of watch out for. So what we decided to do is the plant walk in person. Can we see the next slide?
Sure.
And everyone who signed up for the plant walk knew that they were signing up for, everyone who signed up for NLCP at the Bernie chapter knew that they were signing up for 2 days. The first day for the class topic, the second for the plant walk. And so what I did, Meg and I talked about this, and Meg recommended this Doodle, which really worked out well for us because we wanted people to sign up for the plant walk during with 4 participants per leader. And when you do that, you can just jump into Doodle. I think it's doodle.com. And you can see that this is the free version because all the advertising. Well, this is the first thing that you do. You invite your participants and you can put your very own message in there specific to the participants and reminding them that they will only be able to sign up for 1 time slot and 4 people will be able to sign up for that. Would you go on?
Sure. Down here is the how many, this tells them how many slots are available and how many are in each slot, just FYI, sorry. I love this idea.
It worked out really well. So this is what the participant gets when they get the email from Doodle. They click on a link and it brings them to this. And you can see that they enter their name. And then what you really can't see is, well, we have all these time slots that they could sign up for. And the first 4 of them are actually blocked out. And they're a little bit gray. And the one at 12 o'clock is white. And the one at 2 o'clock is white. And that's how the participant can see that the time slot has been booked. Okay. So it's hard for you to see in this slide, but the participant can see that. A lot of people didn't understand that. So sometimes there was a back and forth, but because we only had 24 people in the class and the class is really only filled up at 30 people, although we don't know what Zoom will, allow us to do many more than that or not, but it allowed for a lot of personal emailing between me and the participants. So that was a kind of an easy thing. Go on.
Okay.
And so this is what I would see when everybody signed up. So you can see that the 8 o'clock slot it has 3 people signed up right there. This is only a portion of the picture. There's more people underneath that. But anyway, so you go across and you can see that the 2 o'clock time slot has only 1 person, 104. Go on.
Okay. Oh, I can do it here. Hold on.
And so Doodle will send you a report like this. And so you can see all the participants on the left side and you can see the time slots on the right side. And then I sent this to Brenda, and go ahead with the next slide. This is what she came back with. So we could take this slide and put it at the very end of our presentation on class day and show everyone who has signed up. Now, we had a little bit of a question. For example, there was a father and his daughter took the class together and they wanted to be in the same time slot, but they couldn't be because it was filled up. Most of them were filled up and they couldn't come around 2 o'clock. So they negotiated right there in the class with somebody and said, hey, can I switch with you at 9 o'clock? And would you take the, say, 12 o'clock slot? And that worked out super well. So we were really very, very happy with it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it worked out very well. And we really appreciated the work that Meg helped us out with, and the fact that we could show people personally because we have a really good place to have this class at Cibolo Nature Center. And we can show people that these plants are like Joan was saying, these plants are not necessarily a prairie plant. They can be an edge plant. And what does edge plant mean anyway, right? So we had really, really good classes, and everybody came back saying they really enjoyed having a day out, a very socially distant sort of class that we could take, and they could actually see and touch and understand what the plant really was. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. So that first slide was the actual online presentation where you all got together because you didn't, your internet, I mean, this is a problem in the Hill Country. We have a lot of chapters out there that have sort of intermittent internet. So the way they overcame that, Bernie overcame that, is they all brought their own computers and sat in the same room and gave the presentations, of which there are two, the class topic and the plant knowledge. And then that was on one day, on Saturday, October 3rd in the morning. And then they had their plant walk on Monday, October 5th, and they had time slots throughout the whole day. Now, in addition to that, Veronica, you also had your plant samples there at the plant walk. So how did you split up the time there?
So because everyone came in for 2 hours, we took about an hour and a half to take the plant walk, the actual plant walk. And we had set up all the samples at the Cibolo Nature Center. And it was really well done by Kathy and Kathy Ward and Terry Lashley and Teresa Butler and Cecilia Fuentes. And they set it up so that one person could walk through and they weren't next to anyone else very closely. You all know, whoever's taking classes, that sometimes people can congregate at each of the plant samples, comparing and contrasting what panatophid means or whatever. So you know that they can get that way, but with the leaders standing there and reminding them, you all might want to separate or whatever, it really worked out quite well.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. No, I really think they did a great job. That was a very interesting challenge for the group to do this online and in-person combo, and but they were determined. And then the rule at the time was no more than 10 people in. It was an actual edict from the governor of Texas saying that we couldn't have more than 10 people in one place at one time. So that's why we limited it to 2 groups of 5 so that we could straddle. One group could go in to the plant walk with one plant walk leader. And then an hour later, another plant walk leader would take a group and they'd spend an hour on the plant walk. And then at the end of the plant walk, they went to the sample table, and Veronica just described that. So any questions from our host chapters on that? Any other thing you want to mention, Veronica?
I think that covers it. It just shows that you can do an in-person plant walk as long as you're outside and people get to touch and smell and see what direction the light's coming in on a plant and things like that. It's a really useful thing, I think.
Yeah.
We really enjoyed doing it.
Well, thank you, Veronica. I really appreciate you going over that, because I think there's some chapters that will have an interest in doing something like this in the spring. And so we know it's a possibility. Because I have to say, one of the difficult things about doing an online presentation for NLCP has been pulling together the plant walk per se, because a lot of chapters have done videos, and videos are not as easy to show on Zoom and because sometimes you have problems with sound and with the video synchronizing with the sound and the loudness of the sound. So it can be more difficult that way. So this is a different option. Thank you. Let me see. Well, while I'm here, while we're talking about plant walks, one more thing. There were, for the online, some chapters chose to do online videos of plant walks. Some chapters chose to do PowerPoint plant walks. And some chapters chose to do in-person plant walks, like the Bernie. Then there's another option that nobody chose to do, but I think is viable for next spring, which would be to do your plant walk live on Zoom. So you'd have to be able to have some internet to get the Zoom and just take your iPad around with you and maybe a microphone and talk about the plants in person at the time. Okay, moving along. We're going to have Kathy Saucier. Kathy?
Good morning. I'm with the Trinity Forks chapter. I'm actually got a dual membership. I'm also with Fredericksburg chapter now that I've moved down here. But all of my NICE and NLCP and plant sale experience has all been with Trinity Forks for about 29 years. So I have long connections with Trinity Forks. And I love propagating plants. I love finding plants and growing them. So NLCP was just a natural for me to join into. So I love it. Love the program.
Kathy was the first plant knowledge PowerPoint that I saw when I started my job.
Oh my goodness.
All right, you ready to move to the next slide?
I'm ready. I'm ready. Yes. So, and the slides we're going to show you for my part here are all in-person classes and don't really relate to the online classes because that's where my past experience for all those years was with. In the early days, we supplemented with all sorts of visuals to help enhance the class. We had cuttings in Ziploc bags. We had vases, bottles, pots, you know, all sorts of ways of trying to have these parts and pieces because everyone loves to see things in person. They want to touch and feel and look at it up close. And just seeing a slide on the screen is, you know, for us plant outdoorsy people, we want to be there with the plants. So we try to have as much of this as possible. But I think it was Joan said that it's a lot of work putting all this together, getting all the samples, all this, you know, material. Also, I used to pass some of these touchy-feely things around and let them pass it from person to person through all the tables while I was talking about plants. And we found that by the time it gets to the next row of tables, we're so many plants ahead that they are now going, now what was this one? And, you know, and they're not paying attention to what you're talking about. So we did away with that after a couple of the classes that we taught and went a little different route. Okay, ready for the next one. So we put a lot of work into this, but it has really simplified the sample idea. I had a wonderful crew of Trinity Forks members that collected the almost all of the 150 species in the 3 levels and pressed them, dry them, and then got them to me. And then we used these this heavy paper stock and these plastic clear sleeves that have a little fold over stick-on edge. Got them from Hobby Lobby. And then I glued, just Elmer's glue, glued on the plants using a little paintbrush, placed parts that were appropriate for showing people, you know, the characteristics they would be looking for. Each one is labeled, has the common name, scientific name, the level number, and the category of the plant. And then we, if there is a bulky item that doesn't work well with pressing, then we would have baggies and we would lay those baggies out with the pressed samples. And if all it did was something pretty for people to look at during the breaks, they loved it. And sometimes these samples came in very handy because we didn't always have all the plants to look at. You never have all of them in the gardens or the natural area anyway. And the I'm looking at the chat questions and I shouldn't be.
Yeah.
I got myself trained looking at them and now I got to stop looking at them. Anyway, one class was like in early February. There's nothing green out there to look at to take people to see. So, you know, sometimes these samples really came in handy because we could show them the flower of a Maximilian sunflower, which is that third one up, in the springtime when it wouldn't be blooming, or these two sumacs here with their fall color, which you wouldn't see in the springtime. So it allowed us to show them all these features of the plants out of their season. Okay. North Texas, the conglomeration of chapters in North Texas all use the same plant list. And in a few cases, we combined species or varieties, in this case with the Redbuds. They combined the Eastern and the Texas Redbud, and I think there's some sumacs and some other things that we combined as a single species, but it really was two things to teach. And we had people in the Metroplex that the Eastern Redbud would be appropriate for, and people who was not. So there are times if your region has these varying ecosystems that you may need to use comparisons of some of these. So this was just showing them how the leaves look different, how the seed pods look different, so they can help identify if they have a wild place and they're trying to figure out what actually grows there. Next one. I liked using any kind of visual that helped people appreciate the plants. And grasses are one of those that it's hard to get people excited about grasses. And I think it's one of the most underutilized native plants. So I happen to have collected bushy blue stem in this pretty little blue vase and had it on top of my piano. And when we were teaching the, I believe this is level 3 class, I brought that vase along just as a prop in the background and pointed to it to help people have an appreciation for the native grasses, because the fall and winter is when they really show their stuff. So I had that one there. That blob that's hard to see that's next to it, that is a tree stump with a girdling root. And this was actually on our property down here in Gillespie County. It was a freebie tree my parents got from the bank for opening an account. And they just stuck it in the ground. And in the level 3 installation and maintenance, we talk about checking the root system and cutting any of the girdling roots. Well, this is a prime example of a plant that had girdling roots. The roots are going around, and as the trunk grows, it starts to choke itself. And this tree never was vibrant. It always was kind of puny. And then somewhere at the 10 to 15 years of age, it killed itself. So when my parents dug it up, I said, I want that. I can use that. So Pat Moyer has this in his possession. He's the NLCP chairman up there at Trinity Forks. So, oh, and the other thing that's not in this picture, we have Sotal in one of our, I think it's level 3. And this thing has a humongous stalk. It's so long that you can't put it in your vehicle without cutting it in half. So I did that, and I have the 2 parts. And then in the classroom while I'm teaching, I reach over, I pick up the stalk, and I hold it together so they can get an idea of how tall this thing is. And just another little thing that for them to look at and appreciate the special feature that that plant has. Okay. Another thing we always put out is a big selection of books. Our members have lots of books in their library, so we bring a wonderful collection We talk about these books, we point them out, they're in our resource list. But the best thing is that the members can go up to the book table during breaks or lunch and look through them, because it sure is a big help if you can actually look through a book and say, no, I don't want to buy that one. Oh yeah, this is the one I want to buy, before you go and place the order and, you know, buy it online or whatever. So the students really appreciate getting to look through the books. And then the last one I was going to show is what we do when we can't find the plants on the walk, but we can supply cuttings or live plants. This particular one, all our members had these plants in pots. It's amazing. And this is outside the Clear Creek Nature Center in Denton. And there's a nice patio out there. And you see the white signs up there on the wall. Those are the different categories. And we would place our samples, our cuttings or potted plants under those particular labels. And then as we have our plant walk, we usually divide into about 3 groups, and we rotate different areas of the nature trail. And we would include the porch as one of those stops. And so each group would rotate its way through, and you use these as if you were looking at them in the landscape. It's a step better than the pressed dry samples, because they can touch them and feel them. You can say, oh, see how this leaf is rough, or, you know, whatever point you're trying to make with it. So it's not quite a plant in the landscape or in nature, but it does give them the live thing to touch and feel. So we have found that having lots of visuals adds a lot to their experience in feeling like they have learned the plant more than just a picture on the slides. So that's kind of what Trinity Forks has done with our in-person classes through the years. You're muted, Meg. Meg, you're still muted. There you go. Yeah.
I'm trying to get my cursor.
There you are.
Good. Okay. Never mind. Okay. So thank you so much, Kathy. We appreciate that very much. For some reason, I couldn't get my cursor over to my little tile. Anyway, next we're going to go on to Martha Richardson. She's with Clear Lake NIPSOT, and she's just awesome. They started doing level 1 in the Houston area, and I've really enjoyed working with her. But let me share the screen, because I'm not going to mute myself anymore. I'll just keep myself quiet here, because that's too much trouble. And then there you go, Martha, take it away. I'm sorry we're running a little bit short on time, but.
All right, and I will be super fast.
Oh, I'm going to go over yours. All right.
All right, these are just, I am Martha Richardson, and I am the host for our NLCP level 1. We inherited a well-oiled machine from the Houston chapter, and they were doing all the levels, and we are a new chapter. We're only 4 years old, and we are Galveston County, the southeast part of Harris County, Brazoria County, people that don't want to drive in Houston. So we began a chapter a few years ago. And so Houston approached us and said, hey, how about taking level 1, which we did. So just following are a few of the tips I just kind of pulled out, cut and pasted, just to kind of share with you some of the things that we do. So this first one is just, this was our very first NLCP class. And I think organization was primo. because we could only get in the building at a certain time. So we had lots of volunteers, but getting them organized was something else. So we came up with, this is just a little section of the setup in the morning. And as people came in, they had this ahead of time. So they knew as soon as they hit the ground what they were going to be doing. So they came in, they got their box of stuff or their flags or their labels or the glue or whatever, and started setting up for the morning, so that within about 15 or 20 minutes, everything was completely set up. Okay, Meg. This was another thing we found after one class. This was, of course, in-person classes, is that people insisted on writing on the test booklet. So rather than having to go through all the test booklets and pull out and make new copies, we just took our test booklets and put each page in a sleeve, front and back, and then used the little ring to hook them together so that people would be reminded not to write on the test booklet. Okay?
Yep.
And then this little ring of information, this is our plant walk. And we have always had the plant walk at Armand Bayou Nature Center. So we had certain places where certain plants grew. And we had a person who went through all of our 50 plants and put basic information on cards, and then laminated the cards, and then made 4 little ring binders of all this information, so that our plant leaders, plant walk leaders, if they needed it, or if we needed to slip in a new plant walk person who needed some cheat sheets, they had something in their hand for a plant walk.
Nice.
Okay. And then the other thing that I think people all enjoy is get a plant. So a lot of our members grow plants, and our chapter grows our own plants for our plant sale. So we've got plants growing all through the year. So when we have a class, we'll slip in a whole tray of 4x4s and let people pick. We have different plants. It's not always the same plant. So they get to pick and take home one of our local native plants.
You have another slide, Martha?
Yes, there should be. All right, and this is one thing I think is very, very important, that you have partners. And you just kind of, we've got Texas Master Naturalist, we have Master Gardeners, and at the top, we do our plant walk at Armand Bayou Nature Center. Our chapter began with people who were working, volunteering at the Environmental Institute of Houston, EIH, and they began talking, hey, why can't we have a Native Plant Society for those of us that don't drive into Houston? So EIH is partnered with the University of Houston at Clear Lake. So that's where our chapter began. And 2 of our presenters are on faculty at the University of Houston at Clear Lake. So they offer us a room now where we can do our NLCP class, and then we drive to Armand Bayou Nature Center for our plant walk.
Yeah.
Okay, Meg, I think this was our fall this year out of necessity. We talked and talked, how could we do a class? Our fall class, we ended up doing on Zoom with 60 people instead of our regular 30 in a classroom. And we had 2 plant walks. One of them I've just kind of cut and pasted. It was more of a see all the 50 plants in different ways. At the top left, we had a drop box where we had a folder for each plant. Down at the bottom, I just picked one plant, which was the spider lily. And what we did was solicit from our chapter people with photos. So every time they would send me a photo, I would put it in the appropriate folder. Okay, next. And this is the spider lily folder. So we had people who sent in all these photos. And then what we did, we asked several people to do a voice memo on their phone. And we gave them the basic information similar to what was on those little cheat sheet cards. And then they could add their own, if their personal experience, if they wanted. Each plant had 30 seconds. So we had a 30-minute plant walk presentation with a voice memo for each of the plants. And next.
Oh, wow. Hold on.
All right, so I wish I was technically able to show you the video, but this was as you can see, it was a 30-minute, 28-second video, and each plant had about a 30-second length with voiceover. So we had different voices doing different plants. And then our other 30-minute part of the plant walk was done live, not the day of, but in several iterations a couple of weeks before at Armand Bayou Nature Center. And it was a sort of a live video recorded. All right, and I think that's it, Meg.
Aw, how nice is that? Very nice. Thank you, Martha. You one of the newer chapters, bringing new ideas to the whole concept. Let me see if I can get out of the. There we go. I just wanted to say a couple of things to sort of wrap up, because I know we're at our time limit here. The first thing is that we will be sending out that handout, and it will have a link to the Dallas chapter herbarium. That was another herbarium that was developed up in the North Texas area. And you're free to download the plant specimens and use them yourself. So I think that that's an option for you, because I think we got some really good comments on the herbarium. Here, let me put this where I'm not leaning in and looking so closely. Yes, the herbarium samples are really impressive from Michelle. And then yes, Joan, these can be used by other chapters through the link that I'm going to send to you. Then Randy wanted to know how long the herbarium plant samples kept their color. Does anybody know? Oh, she's muted there now.
Yeah, I forgot. I started talking. It really varied from plant to plant. You notice the sumacs held their red leaf color forever. And certain flowers, they just, as soon as they're dried, they totally lose their color. And one of the things I didn't mention is that on those white sheets, after I glued the plants in place, if there was something I wanted to point out, because I'm not standing there, none of us are standing there showing them, I would make a little arrow to the plant part or whatever and make a note. So if there was like a red flower that turned white when it dried, I would say, you know, this would be red, you know, something like that. So I could write on those because they weren't official herbarium specimens. I could write on these sheets and give extra information. But yeah, color is one of those weird things.
Yeah. So I was reminded by Suzanne, thank you, to not forget Clarence's question about the viability of taking these classes to schools. Frankly, I have an education background. I think that we could take portions of the classes, or, I mean, I think we could work with the schools on anything. But I imagine what they're going to want is something that's shorter than a day long. So I think that it's an option. And if you want to talk about it, Clarence, let's do that. Just come to me and we'll see what we can do. Okay. Clarence is our new in NIPSOT. He's our newest member of the executive board. Have you been voted in yet, Clarence? Don't answer that. You can't. I think he has been. So if he hasn't been, he will be today in the membership meeting or something. But anyway, he would be a good person to work with on this issue. Any other questions that, no, I think we covered everything. Kathy, Randy said give away plants, and a lot of chapters do give away plants. And of course, Martha mentioned that as well. Giving away 4-inch plants is a lot of fun. You should see the delight on the students' faces when they do that. When they get their plant. And if you make it a contest and they win the contest early and they can get the plant they really want, because we never have one plant of one plant, we have several different plants that we're highlighting, then it makes it even more fun and competitive. Anyway, thank you so much for coming to this presentation. Please. Oh, what?
Oh, looks like Joan Miller answered it. Someone asked, what is the grass in your background behind the standing cypress?
Oh, I believe I have some Canada rye, and I don't have any Lindheimer muley out there, Joan. I'm thinking that there's a lot of Canada rye in there. I can't see.
I was thinking little blue stem looked possible.
We also have little blue stem too. So if you see something that looks like little blue stem, it would be that. But I think I remember looking at that background and going, wow, look at all the Canada rye. I didn't realize I had so much. This was right after the drought. This is what came up after the drought, standing cypress everywhere. And now I have none. So anyway, is there anything else? I just want to say thank you so much for coming. I hope that you found this presentation helpful. I will be sending out that document. So look for that via email. And again, thanks for coming, and we'll see you next time. And I'm going to end the meeting for all. Take care.